Hello, good morning, good evening, and welcome everyone to Sentence Correction webinar by e-GMAT. In this webinar, we're going to talk about how is it that you can build your skills in sentence correction so that you can attain that 90th percentile ability to enable you to get to your target GMAT score. My name is Payal Tandon. I'm one of the co-founders of e-GMAT. In this session, you will learn how you can get on that path to scoring that 90th percentile in GMAT SC using the meaning-based approach, the breakthrough approach that we invented back in the year 2011, and the approach that is responsible for every 3 out of 5 successes that are published on GMAT Club. Now, we are very proud to say that we are right now in the third iteration of that process. We learn from our students, we learn the issues that the students face, and in order to solve those problems, we essentially enhance our course offering, and that's what enables every iteration to make it possible for more and more students to build their core skills so that they can get to 90th percentile. Now, I would like to learn something about you all over here. So we are going to get to know each other a little better. Type in the chat pod and tell me, where are you from? Say hello to everyone. We have about 72 people in the session right now. So I see India, Nepal, Pakistan, United States, India, Germany, Taiwan, Chile, Italy, New York. Okay, good. Welcome, everyone. Some of you are attending this session on a Saturday evening. Some of you are attending this session on your Saturday morning. Some of you on Saturday afternoon. Very good. That just shows how dedicated you are to your GMAT preparation. And that dedication is the most important thing that you need. So very, very good. All right, let's now get some data in terms of where you stand today when we talk about SC ability. It's not accuracy, it is ability. So tell me, based on your assessment, where do you stand in terms of your SC ability? So I see that quite a few of you do not know how to estimate your SC ability. All right, we'll talk about that shortly. Now, for those of you who have filled one of the top 4 choices here, below 30th percentile, 31st to 58th, 51st to 75th, and above 75th percentile, tell me, how do you know precisely what your current SC ability is? ESR, okay. All right. What other sources? ESR, okay. Mock, which mock? Well, Kaplan test is not going to tell you your SC ability precisely, Yash. From Scholaranium, official guide is not going to. So how, from official guide, after solving 50 questions, how do you know what your SC ability is? e-GMAT ability quiz, okay. Scholaranium, okay, good. So my thing would be that if you have solved official questions, you calculated, Sandesh, how did you calculate that? I want to make sure that you're not confusing accuracy with ability. Okay, that's something which is very important. So, and again, we will talk about that later. But as such, for those of you who don't know how to figure out your ability, either you look at the ESR, okay, or you essentially take Sigma X mock test. Now, this one mock test is available free of charge to everybody. You do not necessarily have to be an e-GMAT student to access Sigma X mock test. Essentially, in this mock, you have 5 difficulty levels instead of the typical 3 difficulty levels that exist in the industry. And the mocks are block level adaptive, okay, which is the actual adaptability that you see in the test itself, right? There are 5 independent engines that basically work in the mock, which means that you not only get your SC ability, you get your CR ability, RC ability, algebra ability, as well as arithmetic ability if you take Sigma X mock test. Okay, all right. So right. So again, for those of you who do not know how to estimate your SC ability, definitely take a look at the Sigma X mock test. Okay, let me just take a few questions over here. There's somebody who said that he wants to prepare for that they want to prepare for GMAT focused, If you want to do focused addition, then again, sentence correction is not obviously in the syllabus. But will this webinar help you? Yes. Why do I say that? Because this webinar, the skills that sentence correction imparts are not only important for sentence correction, but for comprehension in general. So you absolutely have to build your comprehension muscle, which means you have to build your visualization muscle, which is something that we are going to be talking quite a bit about in this session. Okay, so I would definitely strongly recommend people who don't want to, who are not even thinking of preparing for SC, to definitely sit in this webinar. In fact, our course for GMAT focused will have certain essential parts from sentence correction. So definitely keep that in mind before you decide to skip this session. Okay. Now I have another question here. Satvik has been preparing for the GMAT for the past 10 months from e-GMAT. For the recent mock, 90th percentile in verbal, 86th in SC. Well, not really, Satvik. You can kind of zone in and out from this webinar, is what I would suggest. We'll be solving 4 questions. These are 4 difficult questions, so you should, so definitely attempt those questions with us. If you're answering correctly, then you can maybe mute the webinar and then continue doing what it is that you're doing on the side. But as such, because you're already at that 86th percentile, what you really have to focus on is what are those, minute issues that you are facing in SC, because definitely your process is solid. So so you can choose to skip, is what I would say. But I rarely ask anybody to leave the webinar. So definitely I would want you to stick around. Okay. All right. Now, um, 40% in cementing. Again, you have to tell me, is that in medium cementing? Because 40% accuracy in hard cementing versus 40% accuracy in medium cementing would mean different things. So if that's in hard cementing, then again, you are at, I would say about 55th percentile, I would suggest. So you should definitely attend this webinar. Okay. So hold off on your questions. Any specific questions that you have from me, please put those in the Q&A pod, okay, so that I don't lose track of those questions, right? I would definitely want to take all of your questions one by one at appropriate points in this webinar, okay? Thank you, Paulomi, for putting your question in the Q&A pod. All right, so this brings us to our next question here, and I'm going to, okay, so let me at least, so I haven't looked at the results of this one. So again, I see there are 7 students who are above 75th percentile. This session will help you. I would definitely say that, because we take difficult questions. So you will see where you're faltering. So definitely. And this session will help everybody who's who's below 75th percentile as well. Why? Because we focus um, on the key skills that are required to ace sentence correction. And this brings me to my next question, which is that, according to you, what is the most important skill to master in order to get to your target ability in sentence correction? Again, Vivek, please put your question in the Q&A pod so that I don't lose your question. I would definitely want to take that up. And yes, you will be getting the recording of this webinar as well. That's okay, Vivek, not a problem. All right, so amazingly, well, overwhelming majority, I should say, believes that understanding the intended meaning is the most important skill. That is very good, okay? Now, if that's the case, if you all understand that, majority of you understand that meaning is the most important thing, then why are we in this session, right? You may wonder, why are we all not already at 80th percentile, above 80th percentile? The reason for that is, yeah, one reason could be that we have just started preparing, but I'm pretty sure that's not the overwhelming, that's not the prevalent reason. The main reason is that, we are going to uncover that main reason throughout the session, but we are going to be getting to that main reason as we get the results of this poll. So tell me, time spent on choice A. What percentage of your time do you spend in reading the original sentence before you move to the answer choices? And the answer to this poll is the answer to the question that I had posed earlier. All of us understand, or 80% of the class understands, that meaning is the most important thing. Yet, we are not able to realize that perfection in sentence correction because we are not truly we have not truly imbibed what does it mean to understand the meaning. And that is evident from the fact that majority of us are spending less than 50% of the time on the original sentence. The moment you switch that, and that switch can definitely happen as we solve the first two, three questions here, right? The moment you switch that, you will start to see massive improvement. Okay. In fact, folks who have said that they spent more than 50%, eight of you, definitely tell me what your target, what your current ability is. Because if you are spending more than 50% of your time on the original choice, then you are definitely thinking about the original sentence in the right way. There may very well be some rough edges, but definitely tell me what your ability is. Yeah, 75th percentile. See, who else? There are nine of you, right? So I would want to see again. As I said, there may be some rough edges, but majority of you will already be beyond that 70th percentile. Okay, so there itself, these nine people who are applying this approach, that is and their ability, that should be motivation strong enough. If you're still not, if again the success record of e-GMAT is not motivating enough for you. Okay, now what if you see a flaw in option A? Preksha, we will talk about that. Again, 20% chance that official sentence is wrong, right? There are five choices, right? Definitely, regardless of whether the official choice is correct or whether the original choice is correct or not, you have to spend more than 50% of the time on the original choice, right? Again, we are going to be talking about that's going to be the primary focus of this session, okay? All right, now let's come to how is it that you've been preparing for SC till now. So click on all the resources that you've used. Kirat, we'll talk about that. If three options are easy eliminations, well, that's a good question. If three options are easy elimination, then is the question difficult? And that's a question to all of you. If three options are easy eliminations, then would you call the question, what's the likelihood of that question to be an easy question? High, low? Well, Munim, if three options are easy eliminations, then the likelihood of that question to be an easy question is very high. Okay? That question will be an easy question. And if you have to attain that 90th percentile ability, then you really have to be able to answer difficult questions correctly. Okay? 70% accuracy on difficult questions is going to get you to 90th percentile ability. Okay, keep that percentage in mind. All right, let's take a look at the resources. So about 44% of the class is using e-GMAT course. Good, very nice. I see a pretty big chunk, one third of the class is practicing questions from GMAT Club official guide. Well, I will talk about this in shortly because again, you all the more well, you're absolutely welcome to solve questions that are there, but you have to use appropriate judgment so that you select the right difficulty level of the question at the right time. Okay, that's very important. And so that you spend your time appropriately looking at all the solutions and all the discussion that's happening on GMAT Club. So we'll talk about that shortly. Okay, but good. All right, now what are you going to be gaining in this session? As I said, the primary focus of this session is to make sure that you understand what does it take to master SC. Okay, now in the context of e-GMAT students, that there are quite a few e-GMAT students, and we'll get the exact percentage when I ask this next question. But in the for e-GMAT students, this session will make sure that we tell you that you learn all the right winning behaviors so that you achieve that 90th percentile. Okay, the way we are accustomed to studying for our school exams or college exams, that's preparing for GMAT is very different from that. Okay, which is why we have to make sure that everyone understands. In order to improve or increase their chances of success, we want to make sure that you understand what does it mean to study the right way. Okay, Another very important thing is you have limited time, right? You are all working professionals, right? You have a family, right? You have friends, you have different commitments, right? So spending time on for your GMAT preparation is a pretty big commitment from your side. And we want to make sure that whatever time you spend preparing for the test goes into taking your score to that 90th percentile, which means we don't want you to waste time. That is why these winning behaviors are very important. So e-GMAT students definitely focus on those things that I talk about as I discuss each and every question in this session. Now, for students who are not as yet e-GMAT students, what this session is going to tell you is what is that core skills focused approach? Why is it that every 3 out of 5 successes that are posted on GMAT Club are by e-GMAT, right? You'll get to understand what does it mean to prepare for GMAT in the most efficient and effective way. Okay, and you're going to learn the core skills focused approach, and that's where I'm going to be continually telling you with each question, how is it that when you're practicing questions on your own, you should be cautious of those best practices. Okay. All right. So this is the question for e-GMAT students in specific. So tell me, where are you at in terms of your SC course? Okay. So folks who haven't started yet or who have completed till verb tenses, good that you are, and that's the majority of the segment, good, because whatever you have, because that way you'll be able to do course correction upfront. That is good. Again, we continue to send you information via email through our support emails, but it's a different experience when you hear live from a person giving you those suggestions. So definitely keep your ears open for that. Folks who have completed till parallelism comparisons, that's good. Again, you can see that the choices here are in progressive order. Um, Before you get to cementing, you will understand whether you need to do certain parts of the course again, or with what mindset should you be looking at cementing. So good. Okay, people who are done with cementing, if you have passed cementing, right, which means that if you have scored 55% accuracy in 3 hard cementing quizzes, then you may leave this session, is what I would suggest. But if you haven't as yet passed hard cementing, then definitely stick around. You will be able to understand where you're faltering. Okay, so good. Very nice. Now let me look at let's move on. We are going to get started now. Okay, so again, keep in mind, to improve to 90th percentile ability, what does that mean? It's very important to contextualize this 90th percentile. This means you should be able to answer hard questions with 70% accuracy. Okay, very important. Okay, now what does it take to do that? It takes, obviously, as I said, answer questions with high accuracy, right? If you're answering easy questions with 70% accuracy, well, that's not going to cut it. If you're answering medium level questions with 70% accuracy, that's also not going to cut it. You need to be able to answer hard questions with 70% accuracy, at least, if you want to get to that 90th percentile. And for that, you have to have a very solid process. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this session. Secondly, GMAT is an adaptive exam. It's a timed exam, right? So you have to answer questions quickly. Okay, that's very important. You cannot take 5 minutes, you cannot take 3 minutes to solve an SE question. Okay, now what you're going to see in this session is how is it that you can get to these 2 goals. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about. That being said, certain housekeeping tips. Well, highly interactive session. You guys have already interacted with me via chat. I'm going to be asking a lot more specific questions as we start to go into the content. So the more you participate, the more you're going to learn. Okay, now questions which are with regards to the topic that I'm discussing in right now, those questions you can post in the chat. Any other questions, please post those in the Q&A part so that I can either answer those at appropriate times, or I can simply respond to those via when you are answering questions. Okay. Right. So that's about it. Now, I said we have to answer questions quickly. Okay. But that's the goal for you to get to that 90th percentile. However, in this session, we are starting off with SC. So in this session, you will be solving essay questions in untimed manner. Okay. Why? Because right now you're learning the process. I don't want the class in general to be put on that under that unreal expectation to solve questions under 90 seconds, right? That being said, I will need to put a timer somewhere, right? So when 70% of the class puts in the responses, I'm going to give you 30 seconds for the remaining 30% of the class to post their responses. Okay. So again, let me get started. So let me show you your first question. Here's question number one. So what I'm going to do is every time you answer a question, you click on still solving. Okay. This way I know how many people are actively engaged in solving this question. Okay. So yeah, so let's get this number. We have about 132 people here. So let's get this number to at least 60, if not 100. We can get to 60. I know others are also participating, but yeah. Okay, good. So this is, and I'm going to not broadcast it now. So here comes your first question. Go ahead and solve it. Good luck. All right, last 30 seconds. So Kirat, once you make a selection of the choice, that's it. So you've already submitted the answer. All right, so 10 more folks. Let's get to make a selection. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. Very interesting. Now, I will ask another question, and that is pertaining to your confidence level in solving this question. So, and that's a question that I want all of you to solve, to answer for yourself always. Okay, whenever you solve a question, always along with making the selection, always just write down or make a note of how confident you are in making that selection. So I see that only one third of the class, or well, yeah, about one third of the class was not confident. Remaining two thirds, somewhat confident, and small segment, extremely confident. Good. Okay. All right. So let's go. I'm going to keep this away. Good. Let's solve this question together. The process to solve any question, any SC question, is as shown. You first understand the meaning of the sentence. When we say understand the meaning, understand is a very overstated word. I like to call visualize the meaning. Okay. When you visualize the meaning, you've truly internalized the entire sentence. Okay. my rule of thumb is that if you can explain the essence of that sentence to your friend, then that means you've understood that sentence. Okay. And if you can get into a nice conversation about that sentence, okay, doesn't mean that you need to know ins and out of it, but yes, you need to get the main gist of the sentence. Okay. Then step number two is you identify all the deterministic errors. And the word deterministic is very important. Why? And it's especially important for folks who prepare using OG solutions on GMAT, who prepare using GMAT Club, official guide questions on GMAT Club. And I'll come to that shortly when we discuss that aspect. But I want you to make a note of that in your scratch pad. Deterministic errors. Identify, focus only on the deterministic errors. Okay. Step number three, based on the output of steps one and two, you then analyze your answer choices. Okay. That's when you do steps one and two on the original sentence, which is where the more than 50% of your time comes about. And then you take the output of that to analyze the remaining four choices. Okay. So this is the crux of the e-GMAT meaning based approach. Okay. Now we'll go into the the details of each and every step. What do we mean by visualize the meaning of the sentence? So here is the sentence in front of you. Observe the blue, green, and purple parts. Okay. You have to read the sentence part by part, and you have to assimilate the meaning of each part as you're reading it. Okay. The overall slackening of growth in productivity. What does that mean? That the productivity is going down. Now, visualizing, that's what I want you to visualize. When you're reading this sentence, in your head, you should think productivity going down. Okay. In your mind, you are actually making an arrow going down. Okay. Productivity is going down. Is influence means that the author is going to give us the reasons for that. Okay. Less by, when you see less by, you automatically know that there is a comparison. Okay. So the productivity is going down. The author has presented reasons, and the author has given comparison, which means that there would be at least two things. Okay. Because if there is a comparison, there got to be two entities there, at least two entities there, right? Okay. Let's move further. Less by government regulation. Okay. So this is the smaller factor. See, what do I mean by visualizing? I'm not just keeping the entities that I've read, I'm not just keeping them on the side. I'm taking the meaning of those entities along with me. I already knew there is less by there, right? Less by government regulation means that government regulation is a smaller factor, right? I'm translating that. I'm simplifying the each part of the sentence in my own words. Okay. And that's where the power of, when I say that you should be able to explain that sentence to your friend, that's where it comes from. Because when you can understand each part of the sentence and you translate that in your own words, that's when you can explain that sentence to your friends. Okay. So it's not just repeating the words that the author has said. You're not just reading the sentence out to your friend. You are explaining the sentence in your own terms. You are owning that sentence. That's when you can explain the meaning of the sentence to your friend. Okay. Is this point clear? Yes, no? Let me get a yes, no poll so that I know that you guys are getting it or not getting it. Yeah. So is this point clear, guys? Is this point clear, everyone? Okay, good. All right. Let's go further. I'm going to clear this out. Okay. Now, less by government regulation, although that is significant for specific industries like mining. So here the author has given certain detail about the areas where government regulation is not a smaller factor. Okay, and what are those areas? Those are specific industries like mining. Okay, than the coming to an end of a period of rapid growth in agricultural productivity. Now, this is definitely a mouthful. So how many of you felt this was a mouthful? Till this point, the sentence was pretty okay, right? But then when you came to this point, it was a lot of, lots of to and off and in, right? So whenever that happens, you go back and read that part of the sentence again, not the entire sentence. You don't need to read the entire sentence, because till this point, till this blue part, you had already translated that, simplified that sentence in your own words, right? So you go back and read this part again. Then now you already know that there is this comparison. So here is the second factor that the author is talking about, the second reason, which is the bigger reason, right? Then the coming to an end, okay, coming to an end of a period of rapid growth in agricultural productivity. So see, I'm reading this part, but I'm reading this part slowly, more slowly, so that I can extract the juice from it. Coming to an end, it's a little weird expression. I think that means, I mean, coming to an end means there's decline of what? Of this growth in farming. Okay, agricultural productivity, whatever I know, I should translate that. Agricultural productivity, I can translate that into farming, right? Right, a period of rapid growth, I can translate that into growth, right? Or excessive growth, right? So or high growth, right? Then the coming to an end, so decline of growth in farming, right? That's what this means. Okay, everybody with me here? You see how I am simplifying the sentence in my own words, and if I'm not getting it the first time, I'm going back and reading the pertinent parts. Okay, how many of you read in that manner today? Not many of us, right? Yeah. So this is the skill. Make a note of that in your scratch pad. This is the skill that you have to build. How do you read? Okay. And this is why sentence correction, or the skill needed for sentence correction, is comprehension, which is absolutely vital for CR, absolutely vital for RC, absolutely vital for quant, and very, very, very significant for data insights. Okay, very, very important. Okay, all right. So far so good, right? Let's now summarize the entire sentence. So when you're reading the sentence, you break it down into chunks, you assimilate the meaning of every chunk, and then you summarize the entire thing. Productivity is, and in your own words, that's the key thing over here, in your own words. Productivity is slowing down, right? But it's not as much because of government regulation. That was your factor one. It is more because of the slowdown of growth in farming. Okay, slowdown of growth in farming. All right. Everybody got the meaning? Yes, no? Good. Now we have the meaning, right? We haven't looked at any other choice. Now we are still not going to look at any other choice. We are going to spot deterministic errors, grammar errors in this choice. Okay. For that, again, a very simple thing is less by government. And here you start to observe what the underlined portion is. Okay. Because this is where the underlining part starts to give you clues, right? So less by government regulation, less by one than two. Oh, that's an issue. The correct choice needs to have by after than, right? So that's the major error in this sentence, major grammatical error in this sentence. There is comparison, but the structure has not been used. You can call this a parallelism error. You can call this comparison error, right? So that's the error. How many of you spotted this error? Let's clear this out. How many of you spotted this error? Okay. So for those of you who spotted this error, should not have selected choices A and B. Okay. So the 24 folks who selected either choice A or choice B did not observe this error. Okay. So I'm going to now bring my chat here so that you guys can. Okay. So my feedback to folks who selected choices A and B, you didn't focus on the grammar error here. Okay, so that's the first learning, that you have to focus on the structure of such constructs. Again, this is very easy. There is no hardcore grammar error. Okay, I observed, but after selecting the answer in hurry. Okay, good. As long as you know. Okay, all right. Now, so the second choice is wrong, right? So choice B is wrong, which means we are left with three choices, or each one of these start with by. Okay, so good. Okay, now the question is, my question to you is, how many of you did this constant back and forth between choices, among choices C, D, and E? Okay, that's my question, and let me get the yes no polls. Folks who obviously who did not select A and B, but did constant back and forth amongst choices C, D, and E. A lot of you. right? Between D and E. Okay. So for Soumya, C was not even in consideration. For how many of you, choice C was not even in the running? How many of you rejected choice C? C felt too long. Good. Actually, this is a good. Kira, thank you for telling me the reason. Tell me, C, why did you reject choice C? Very interesting. The why behind it. I have the data right in front of me, but C was too wordy. Good. Karan, why did you reject choice C? C was awkward. Okay. So I see, and it's very, yeah, it's interesting. C felt clunky. So awkward, wordy, didn't sound right, odd to read because it compares the government to a verb. No, that's not what it's doing. Although less by government regulation than by. Yeah, so that's not right. C had the word which is already underlined. Hmm. No, by wasn't there in the original choice, and Soumya. Coming and end is almost the same redundancy. No, coming to an end, it did not have proper meaning. Okay. Uh, okay, so Soumya brings up an interesting point here. See, the coming to an end of, right, that's the starting point of the sentence, right, of the underlined portion. What choice C is doing is choice C is changing the starting point. Instead of saying the coming to an end, choice C is saying by the coming to an end, right? So that's not wrong at all. Okay. All right. So interesting rejection reasons for rejection. Okay. um, let's look at why choice C. So a lot of you were doing back and forth, right? For a number of you, C was not even in the running because it was wordy, because it was awkward, because it didn't make sense, because of redundancy. But choice C is the correct answer. And the reason for that is meaning. Okay. Choice C meant our original sentence says that the reason is slowdown of growth. Okay, which is what we understand from coming to an end, right? It's slow down, right? That is what choice C means. Okay, that's what the original choice means, right? So, which is what choice C is communicating. Same expression as in choice A. You understood choice A. Nobody said anything about when I translated choice A to mean slowdown of growth. Okay, nobody said anything. Everybody understood that, right? But when it came to selecting the answer choice, you thought that coming to an end is actually wordy. Okay, that is a very big problem. Look at choice E. Yes, choice E looks very elegant, right? By the end of, right? It's very elegant, but it doesn't communicate the right meaning. What the author is saying is slow down of growth, right? That's what the author wants to communicate. What choice E is saying is growth didn't even wasn't even happening. The end of growth. Slow down of growth versus the end of growth. Okay, slowdown means that maybe if it was 10% growth earlier, now it was 5% growth or maybe 3% growth, right? Just assume some numbers, visualize it based on using numbers. End of growth means if it was 10% growth, now it is 0% growth. Okay, no growth at all. Okay, that's what end of growth means, right? Huge difference. Okay, economy has slowed down doesn't mean that economy has stopped growing. Okay, the growth of economy has slowed down doesn't mean that the economy is not growing, right? Two very different meanings, two very different different impacts, right? So that very different impact, right? So that is where you have to focus on the meaning of the sentence and not go by what seems to be polished, what seems to look elegant. Okay, so right, one small word can create such a big difference. Absolutely, Jagriti. And again, if you think about it logically, right, it's all logical. If you are, if let's say your manager says that we have to do something to make sure before the slowdown of growth happens, right, versus if the manager says we have to do something before the growth ends, right, very different meanings out of it. This is a 700 plus level question. As I said earlier, All the 4 questions that we will be doing in this session are 700 plus level questions. These are all difficult questions, okay? Because it's in the difficult questions that you understand the relevance of the process, okay? All right, so again, always have to focus on what is the original choice, okay? Saying, what is the original choice communicating, okay? It's not about eliminating words, Akila. You have to understand what are those words communicating, okay? If let's say choice E communicated, took out coming to an end and replaced that with some other word which communicates the same meaning, then that choice could have been correct, right? Again, you have to go by, don't use any formulas here. Don't think that if there is a word that's not there, then that means that the choice would be wrong. Absolutely not. There are many SC questions in which even if the word has been eliminated, the meaning remains intact, right? So you have to focus on the meaning. Okay, Rishabh, absolutely. E is at a point in time, C happened in a time range. Absolutely. And that's what this graph shows. Choice but point C is communicating the end of growth, whereas the entire starting from this point when the slowdown starts to happen, that is the entire period which the original choice is communicating, and that is what choice C is explaining. Okay. Now, by ending is wrong. Why? Because it seems as if the factor is that someone is doing an action of ending, okay, by ending the growth period. It's as if there is some other agent that's doing the action of ending, and that is what is the second factor, okay, or the more prevalent factor, and that is not at all what the original choice is saying, okay? So Sandesh, there are no rules like this, and which is where it's very important. Remember the word determinant, as that I said, that is very important. These rules, you shouldn't even worry about them, because and that's the downside of going on the outside forums. And because there are so many different experts, students who just talk about certain rules, and those generally accepted practices get converted into rules, and then you have to keep those in your mind. You overburden your brain, and because of that overburdening, you're not focusing on the key thing that's important, which is the meaning. Okay, so don't worry about, I mean, frankly, I don't even know what a gerund is. I don't need to know what a gerund is, because I'm not a grammarian. I am a logical person who knows how to extract meaning from sentence correction prompts, and who knows how to express that meaning. That's all I am. Okay. So, well, that's not all I am, but yes, that's all I need to know in order to get to that 90th percentile in SC. Okay. So don't get into these nuanced things. Okay. Thank you. All right. So again, visualizing coming to an end. That was the key thing over here. Okay. Now this question is a 700 level question, as I said. Okay, and the key skill which was important here was visualization. Okay, now what do I mean by visualization? As I said, as we were reading this, we understood each and every part, and I translated that in my own words, right? Now, is this a skill that all of us have? Absolutely. Okay. And to prove that, we're going to do a bit of a segue, and we're going to show a very simple excerpt. Black Beauty, it's a classic by Anna Sewell, right? Now, this is an abridged version. Okay, and so it's not very complex vocabulary or not very complex sentence structure, but the core skill that is required to enjoy this is visualization, and I want you to experience that on your own, okay, by yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this section over here, and I want you to read this section for 30 seconds, and then I'll come back. When you're done reading, click on yes. Okay, how was it reading this part? As you read this, what did you do? You visualized. What did you visualize? You imagined. Yeah, I was visualizing. That's nice, Vivek. Okay, pictured the home, the pathway, the scenery. It was nice, right? Nani ka ghar. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. A park. Yeah. So it's a nice segue, right? Well, yes. You first look at the large gate, then a smooth road, then both, big trees on both sides, a house, a garden, and that's the joy of reading fiction, right? When you read fiction, the book comes alive in front of you, right? Now, how many of you read fiction here or enjoy reading? So, if you read fiction and you visualize this, right, you would never read fiction with the mindset of, okay, is this, can this be parallel to that, right? You never think about those things when you're reading fiction. You're wired to visualize that, right? Am I right in that? You're automatically wired. Nobody tells you to visualize, right? So you all have that muscle. You all have that aptitude. All you have to now do is apply that aptitude on these rather dry sentences that you're going to see in sentence correction, or that you're going to see in CR, or that you're going to see in RC, or that you're going to see in DI. Okay, that's all you have to do. Just tell your brain, wire your brain to start to visualize the non-fiction aspects as well. Okay, because that is what you will truly need to do when you are reading those case studies. Okay, you cannot stay on the surface of the words. Okay, you have to get inside those words. You have to visualize the story presented to you in the case studies that you are going to be exposed to in your MBA or post your MBA. Does this make sense? Because a lot of mastering SC comes straight from your approach. What's your mindset? Okay, a lot of that comes from that. Okay, because no matter how robust my course is, no matter how robust the questions are, no matter how well laid out everything is in the course, if you don't have the mindset, right, you will not be able to get the essence of that. Okay, all right. How many of you get this point? Yes, no? Have you ever thought of SC like that? Can you see how it's going to make a huge difference if you change your mindset? Yes, it will be amazing. It is amazing. Too focused on checking rules, forget about rules. When I say forget about rules, what I mean is leave the rules. You only need to focus on the rules which are truly important. And frankly, the important rules will come very naturally to you because they are all very logical if you understand the meaning. Okay, that's what it is. All right, now visualizing visualization as a muscle is something that we all have. We just have to start using that muscle, and in order to strengthen that muscle, the entire e-GMAT course is built with that mindset, with that focus. Okay, which is where you see each and every sentence, and the e-GMAT students can attest to that. This sentence is there, right? This is directly from our verb ing modifiers concept, which is actually available in your free trial as well, concept number C3. So definitely look at that. There's the one reason of presenting these flowers and Mary and the bouquet could be that we just wanted to make the slide pretty, but no, that's not the intent. The intent is to make sure that when you read flowers, you think of flowers. When you read Mary here, you think of a girl. When you see beautiful bouquet, you think of a bouquet, right? So we are actually making you strengthen those muscles, that visualize muscle that exists in you naturally, right? Likewise, when you see this kept on the topmost shelf of rack 11, Keats wrote these books, right? You see Keats placed on the bookshelf, right? Now, yes, it looks funny, but that wasn't the intent of it. The intent was to make you visualize. When you're reading those words need to come to life. And how do they come to life? When you visualize them, right? So you actually see the visualization right on the screen. And that is there for easy sentences such as these. That's there for complex sentences that you see over here. Yes, obviously, we can't draw out industrial revolution and acceleration and all that stuff, but we highlight the appropriate parts in terms of timeline, in terms of those linkages and things like that, so that you automatically start to do that as well as you read the sentences on your own. Okay, so again, the words need to come to life. That is your first learning that I want you to make a note of. The second learning was, do not go by the rules that are there that are flooding these forums. Focus on the deterministic errors. Okay, all right, so again, your focus has to be answering hard questions correctly and answering those questions quickly. Okay, so visualize, if you visualize the meaning, you will be able to reject answer choices confidently, and that is going to improve your accuracy. If you visualize the meaning, you are going to reduce the back and forth. Imagine the amount of back and forth that you did between amongst choices C, D, and E. All of that will be taken care of. You won't even do that back and forth, because you'll know right off the bat that choice C is the correct choice, and you will have solid grounds to reject choices D and E. That is the power of visualizing the meaning. Okay, and that is where you have to make sure that that is the primary reason why we say you have to spend more than 50% of your time on the original choice, because if you don't do that, if you get then you're going to get lost in the answer choices, and then it will be like hammering your head against the wall, because if you don't spend more than 50% of your time on the original choice, then you will not have the meaning correct. Okay, that is a sure short thing. Okay, all right, so let's now move to our second question here. I'm going to skip all of this. Okay, let's now for this sentence, I want to make sure that you all focus on the meaning. Okay, I'm going to change the poll here. Question number 2. There you go. Okay, let's click on still solving. Okay, so Ashish is saying here, it is difficult to imagine statements with technical words and meanings. Ashish, that is where you have to practice, right? Things are difficult. If things were not difficult, then 90 percentile, then 90th percentile would not be that difficult to get, right? 90th percentile exists for a reason, right? So it is, GMAT is a test of skill, right? It tests your skill, which means it is a test that is designed to distinguish between the different ability levels, right? So for this, you have to go through master comprehension course, and I'll talk about that after we are done discussing this question. Okay, so let's get this still solving number up to about 60. Let's do that. Oh, I already have the question here. Sorry. Yeah. Go ahead, solve the question. Last 30 seconds. All right, I'm going to end the poll now. Interesting. The accuracy for this question was better than the accuracy for the previous question, although this question is also difficult. So let's get your confidence level here. Tell me, what is your confidence level? Okay, good. I see more people are confident. Good. Okay, so how many of you applied the learnings from the discussion so far? Let me clear this. Yeah. How many of you tried to visualize? Again, we have to start trying, right? So good. I'm happy to see that a number of you tried visualizing. Good. All right. So let's now discuss this question. Choice B is the correct answer, as you would have guessed. Okay. Again, same process. Visualize the meaning, determine all the deterministic errors, and then only analyze the answer choices. Now, this is a pretty long sentence. How many of you were stumped by the sentence structure? Just how long the sentence is? How many of you were stumped by it? Yes, no? Yeah, okay. Now, whenever that happens, again, for the previous sentence also, we broke the sentence down into smaller chunks, okay? That approach is called as strategic pausing, okay? And this approach we teach in Master Comprehension course because this approach doesn't come very naturally to students, especially as, again, one of you had mentioned earlier that, it's technical language, so it's very difficult to visualize technical terms. And this is where for non-fiction stuff, we have to really make sure that we strengthen your muscle, and that is where strategic pausing comes into picture. So let's do another demo of that. Okay, although appearing less appetizing than most of their round and red supermarket cousins, when you read this, what sense do you get? What you get is that there is some, first of all, there is a contrast here, right? Although, which means that there is a contrast here, right? Appearing less appetizing. What does less appetizing mean? It doesn't look as yummy than most of their round and red supermarket cousins. So two things have been compared here. One are these perfectly looking supermarket cousins, whatever that means, right? And the other would definitely be something that doesn't look that attractive, right? So, although appearing less appetizing than most of their round and red supermarket cousins, heirloom tomatoes. Okay, heirloom tomatoes, what is this entity? Oh, this entity is the thing which looks less yummy than its round and red supermarket cousin. So till this point, you now know that there are two entities here. One is these heirloom tomatoes, and the other are the attractive cousins, right? And heirloom tomatoes look less yummy than the attractive cousins. Okay, heirloom tomatoes grown from seeds saved during the previous year. So this is a descriptive information about these heirloom tomatoes. Okay, yeah, so these are grown from seeds, and these seeds are saved during the previous year. As I'm reading this, in my mind, I'm actually creating that image of these tomatoes, and how they are grown, and then these other kind of tomatoes. So I'm literally making that analysis table in my head. Okay, and then I'm going to show you what that table looks like. Okay, they are often green and striped. Now when you come here, what is they are often green and striped talking about? Or have plenty of bumps and bruises. When you read this, who are, or what are green and striped, or have plenty of bumps and bruises? The heirloom tomatoes, right? You already know that heirloom tomatoes don't look that yummy, right? So this is the description of the heirloom tomatoes. Okay, good. Heirlooms are more flavorful and thus in increasing demand. Oh, that is interesting. Till this point, the author said heirloom tomatoes don't look very yummy, right? Or are not as yummy, don't look as yummy as these other tomatoes, but they are more tasty, and hence they are more in demand. Okay, that is where the contrast is. So, do you see how there is comparison between heirloom tomatoes and these good looking cousins, right? And there is a contrast. What is a contrast? That heirloom tomatoes look less yummy, but they are more, they look less attractive, but they are more yummy. Okay, that's it, right? Now, how difficult was this? To understand the meaning of the sentence, I haven't written down anything. Okay, I haven't, all the processing is happening in my head. Okay, I didn't have to take down any notes, although I do recommend you take notes in the beginning for sure, and also get in that habit of taking quick notes. Okay, and that's very important for CR, RC, and also for data insights. Okay, in fact, the entire data insights course that we have, you'll see for every question, whether it's a quant question, whether it's a verbal related question, there are very detailed notes that students should take. Okay, all right, so coming back to this, to understand the meaning of this sentence, what are we doing here? We are, I'm not focusing on, so Jagriti, you actually asked the question at the right time. I'm not thinking about grammar. Okay, I'm thinking about grammar not from the standpoint of what is this modifying, is this written correctly? No, I'm not worried about that at all. I'm not worrying about commas, I'm not worrying about, is there a subject, is there a verb? No, as I'm reading the sentence, when I'm reading the original sentence, I don't even care whether the sentence is in sentence correction or whether the sentence is in a newspaper articles, New York Times articles that I want to understand. Again, it's all about mindset. Do you want to understand? Absolutely, Ashish. The purpose of visualizing is to help understand the meaning, and that want, that desire to understand the meaning should come from within you. The moment that comes, that very moment, you're going to see that that thing, turn on in your head. That okay, now I, whatever words I'm reading, I will try to understand. Those words will come to life. Okay, that is definitely going to happen. Okay, all right. Now tell me, the way I read this sentence to extract the meaning, is that difficult? Is that, did that seem as if I am doing something out of the world? Yes, no? Or did that seem very logical? It seemed logical, right? Yeah. So you can do it. So that is the mindset change that each one of you, as soon as you have that, you will be on the path to that 90th percentile, comfortable. Okay. So again, when you're reading, these are the kinds of questions when you are, so in master comprehension course, this is what we teach. How do you break the sentence? Where do you pause? What are the pause points? What do you do at those pause points? You ask these probe questions. That's what we call them, right? What kind of tomatoes appear less appetizing? What does green and striped or have bumps and bruises? So when I was reading the sentence, I was actually answering those questions intuitively. But when you are learning to do this, you will ask those questions explicitly so that you can answer those questions explicitly. Okay, that's the process that you will go through when you're learning the process of visualization through strategic pausing. But as you become masters of that process, you will be able to understand the meaning as you are reading the sentence without even making an effort, because that will become an intuitive process. That's when you will be able to read the sentence fast and get all the aspects of the meaning from it. Okay, so that's the progression that I want all e-GMAT students to understand. Some students become very anxious, right? Because they think that, okay, they have done till modifiers and they're still taking longer. Absolutely fine. Give yourself that time, because you are building your muscle here. You're building, you're strengthening your muscle. Whenever you do that, you have to give yourself time. You're learning a new skill. Okay, and which is why we say, do not time yourself when you are going through stage one. When you're going through the course, do not time yourself at all. Because if you start to time yourself, you will falter. Okay. Now, we understood the meaning, right? Now, the next step is, what are the deterministic errors? Okay. Now, this is where you go into the grammar. Okay. So, Jagriti, at this point, you're going to look at the grammar. Okay. Here, what you say is, now you see, do you have all the subject verb pairs accounted for? Do you have the verbs in the right tense? Do you have your pronouns and antecedent pairs without any ambiguity? Is the modifier placed appropriately? Is the modifier logical? Are there parallel lists? So, again, those deterministic errors, you go through the checklist that you have, right? And that is what we teach in our application files. Okay, so that you wire your brain to think about the grammar errors in terms of that checklist. Okay. um okay, so that's what you do. Now, again, in this case, you don't have to worry about the hyphen. And in fact, this is one of the non-deterministic errors, because people use dashes in various different ways. You don't have to worry about that, because there's hardly any question that's going to be testing your knowledge of dash. Okay. Again, GMAC is not testing you whether you are grammarians or not. Okay, GMAC is testing you on whether you can whether you can communicate the meaning in unambiguous manner. Okay, Ritvik, the checklist is subject verb errors, pronoun errors, modifier errors, parallelism errors, idiom errors. That's the checklist, right? And that checklist is there for each and every question that we cover in the application files and in the practice files and in Scholarium. And I'll talk about that when I walk you through the course structure. So the error over here is that heirloom tomatoes, the one that's marked in red, that is hanging without any verb. There is no verb here. Okay, that is what the error is. Okay, now somebody had said that, what if the original sentence is not grammatically correct? Even then, do we need to look at that sentence to understand the meaning? And the answer is an overwhelming yes, yes in caps. Why? Because to understand this, what I want you to visualize is that the author is your friend. Okay, and that's the easiest way to picture the scenario. The author is your friend may or may not know the correct language constructs. Okay, but your friend definitely has good information to communicate. So it's your job to understand what is it that the author wants to tell you. Okay, and then it's your job to communicate that in correct English. Okay, if you understand your role and the author's role in that manner, then you would not get those questions in your head. Does that make sense? Yes, no? And again, a lot of what I'm talking about here is more, at that level wherein I'm trying to tell you what is SC all about. Okay. Contrary to the general perception that SC is all about those grammar rules and that the syllabus is vast, absolutely not. SC is all about logic. Okay, which is where you have to make sure. One of my concerns is with GMAT focused early on was that if people don't do SC, because normally what we tell is that you should be doing SC, then you should move on to CR, and then you should move on to RC, right? But if there is no SC, then the comprehension skill that students typically learn in SC, we have to make sure that they get that right level of understanding, right? So that is where we have enhanced our GMAT focus course, by getting those pertinent parts from master comprehension and from sentence correction. And in checklist-based structure, construction seems tedious. It's not tedious. Once you go through the application files, you will not find that tedious. And I would want e-GMAT students to chime in over here. People who are doing cementing. I mean, does that seem tedious? Because you develop an eye. You start to once you train yourself, you really start to develop an eye for those. Yeah. Thank you, Jagriti. All right, so it comes naturally, absolutely. And again, that's the process, that's the outcome of doing um, the right kind of practice at the right time. Okay. Okay, so let's come back to this. So the blue box that you see over here, that box encapsulates all the aspects that we extracted from the original sentence. Comparison, there's appearance, there is taste. Contrast, heirloom tomatoes look bad, but they taste good. Okay. Now, and then to um, step number two is to figure out the deterministic errors, and that's where we figured out that there's no verb for heirloom tomatoes. Now you take that analysis with you into the remaining choices. So you've already figured out that choice A is wrong. Now look at choice B. So choice B, so what you see on the top is choice A, right? With its sentence structure. Now look at choice B. Tell me, why did you guys reject choice B? Those of you who did, about half of the class rejected choice B. Look at this and tell me what was wrong with choice B. So Karan, ask me this question later on, or maybe put that question in the Q&A pod, because I do want to talk about that. Okay. Hitting the plateau. And that happens with a lot of students. And that happens with us when we are building in any skill. Okay. So let's come back to choice B. I thought it modified the red tomatoes. Well, where does it say that? Look, I mean, if you compare choices A and B, just look at this. The non underlined portion is all self contained. They are often green and striped. They is referring to heirloom tomatoes. Heirlooms are more flavorful and thus an increasing demand, that is linked with although clause, right? So there's nothing wrong happening in the non-underlined portion, right? That's by design, right? So although, and choice B over here is self-contained. Although heirloom tomatoes appear less appetizing, they are heirlooms are more flavorful. That's it. So there's nothing wrong in choice B at all. And that you will be able to get if you break the sentence down into its sentence structure. So Shivani, this is the rule of modifier should be close to the noun. So you got confused there. So see, they are often green and striped. They can be far away. There's nothing like that. So the reason, Rishika, that you're talking about over here, you have to make sure that you are misinterpreting the pronouns rule. Okay. So definitely look at our pronouns article. Okay. Lynn is saying already has subject heirloom tomatoes, but after hyphen there is another subject which is they. Again, they is a separate entity altogether. They are often green and striped, or have plenty of bumps and bruises. Consider that to be a, a thing listed within parentheses. Okay, and those dashes are acting as parentheses. The other thing over here is that this is in the non-underlined portion, so you have to become strategic. Okay, as long as the non-underlined portion is not interfering with the underlined portion, you have to let it be. You have to trust the author that whatever they've written in the non-underlined portion, that is fine. Okay, that's another skill that you have to develop. Okay, and that's when you go through the application files in the course and the practice files in the course, you will be able to see those kinds of things. Okay, when you read choice B with the remaining section, it doesn't make sense. Ella, why doesn't it make sense? Although heirloom tomatoes appear less appetizing, okay, they are often green and striped. So think about it. Although heirloom tomatoes appear less appetizing, that's what the underlined portion is saying in choice B. Then the next part over there in the non-underlined portion is saying they are often green and striped. So that's explaining why heirloom tomatoes appear, or that's giving an explanation or description of heirloom tomatoes appearing less appetizing, right? And then heirlooms are more flavorful, so that's linked with the although. Again, the reason why you rejected choice B and all of these complaints about, or issues that you guys thought with choice B, the main reason is that you didn't understand all the aspects from choice A to that level. That's why you were trying to find things that were wrong with choice B. Okay, and trying to pinpoint issues in choice B which don't even exist. Okay, all right. Now look at choice C. Now choice C was not selected by very many people. Okay. Um, Choice C, again, there is no verb for heirloom tomatoes. In fact, the structure of choice B is very similar to the structure of choice A. Okay. Choice D is wrong. Why? Because there is no contrast whatsoever. Okay. There is no contrast at all. So that is why this is wrong. Okay. Again, guys, you have to, there's a lot of number of people who are saying that they are often green and striped. That doesn't link up with the previous part of the sentence, and that's there for all the choices.
Okay, so I'm not sure why you are pinpointing that as an issue with choice B. That part is consistent across all the choices. Okay, all right. Now, choice D is wrong because there is no contrast whatsoever. Okay, I'll go back to choice C. Choice C, what's happening is that it doesn't have any verb. It has the same exact same error that choice A had. The only difference between choices A and C is that in choice A, it said they, although appearing. Okay, let me just highlight that. Although appearing. And in choice C, it says although they appear. That's it. Rest, everything else is the same. So choice C has the same error as choice A. Okay. Now, again, once you master sentence structure, which is what you'll be able to do when you go through master comprehension course, you will be, all of these things will come very naturally to you. Okay. Choice E has a different sentence structure, but exact same error as choice A. There's no verb for heirloom tomatoes. Okay, and not very many people selected choice E. Now, so let me bring back the stats here. Here. Choice D was the next popular choice, right? 22% of the class selected choice D, and they were wrong there. Why? Because choice C does not have choice D, there's no contrast there. Okay. So, again, the main thing over here, visualization, and that visualization becomes easy if you create sentence structure. And that, look at the sentence structure. Have you ever, so folks who are preparing on GMAT Club, solving OG questions there or other questions, do you break down the sentence? Do you see solutions there in which you see all of these sentence structures? Obviously, if the solutions are by e-GMAT, you will see solutions there, but non-e-GMAT solutions. We are the ones who came up with the sentence structure approach, right? So the solutions that you see from us on GMAT Club definitely have that. Okay, so again, these are the things which make sure, because in every application file, in every practice file, you see these solutions. That's the purpose of that, is to wire your brain to think about it in this manner. And you not only see these in step one, but also in the last step over here in answer choice analysis, wherever it is required. We don't just leave you with, oh, having blocked and keeps is not parallel. We show it to you using these sentence structures, so that again you continue to build that muscle. Okay, all right. Rishika, which slide? This one here, choice E. I will be giving you the PDF. No, next after this. Okay, this one. This is a whole another question. So the reason why I posted this slide was just to show you this is a question in one of our application files. So you weren't meant to understand the content here. Okay, yeah. The whole point of this one was that again the sentence structure is ingrained across the course. Okay, so um again we have done two questions, two more to go. Two very different 700 level questions. In the first one, very small part of the sentence was underlined. In the second one, a pretty big chunk, complicated sentence structure, but frankly, it's the same process that you have to apply. You have different tools to maneuver each and every skill over there. For the first, visualizing, you have to again get in that mindset. And then sentence structure is something that we teach you explicitly, those pause points, right? And how do you do that? Through master comprehension course, right? So again, this is a structure of master comprehension course. It is a very important skill, and as I said, for data insights also, master comprehension course is going to be very, very critical. Okay, so 12 learning activities, more than 50 examples with detailed solutions. We teach you the building blocks of sentence. We take you from a 3-word sentence to a 12-word sentence so that you understand how our sentence is constructed, and we don't use any grammar, any hardcore grammar terms, because frankly, there's no point. We are not training you to become grammarians. We are training you to become people who can understand the non-fiction sentences, okay, who can visualize non-fiction sentences. And we start off with very simple context, things that you can very easily visualize, and we slowly increase the difficulty level. Okay, we increase the difficulty level by first increasing, giving it to you in a simple context, but then, adding complexity of sentence structure. Okay. And then we basically throw at you more complex sentences from the standpoint of, SC like sentences. And that's what you see in module number 5 over here. You basically go through, it's non-fiction sentences, which are like SC sentences. And then you continue to do that so I've been talking about these application files, right? You continue to build that skill across all the modules of sentence correction, all the 10 modules of sentence correction, right? Okay. So 33 learning activities, 140 examples. Okay. And for each one, you get this personalized feedback right after you attempt the file. Okay. How many of e-GMAT students focus on getting at least 80% in every file? Yes, no. That's the feedback that the system gives you. If you score anything less than 80%, you have to go back and revise. In fact, if I were you, my goal should be 100%. And if I don't get 100%, I need to go back and revise. I need to fix my problem right there and then. And that's the beauty of the personalized feedback. Okay. And that you get after every entity, which is after every 15 minutes, you get that feedback. Okay. All right. So you continue to you and must, and again, sentence structure, as I said, it's there across every question that you see on the platform has a sentence structure there, right? So you start learning it in master comprehension, you'll continue building that muscle in the SC course, and then when you get to Scholaranium, which is your practice platform, you continue that skill. Okay. So that is the core skills focused approach, right? Specific learning activities for the right thing, trackability and feedback, taking that feedback very very seriously, and then progressive difficulty level, right? So progressively increasing the difficulty level of content, which is something that if you're practicing on your own, you don't know what is difficult, you don't know what's easy, you don't know what kind of concepts that particular question tests you on, right? So that's the reason why preparing with the right curated content is very very important. Okay. So if you want to see this article, definitely go through this file. This is not an article. It's a very nice e-learning videos over here. So definitely go through that. Okay. All right. So this brings me to our next question. And this time I'm not going to show you the question while I ask you to click on still solving. So let's click on this. How's the session going so far, guys? Two more questions left. Let's get the poll. You have been awfully quiet. So click on still solving and tell me how's the session going so far. Anything, any revelation so far? Big aha moments. That's good to know, Jagriti. Learn the importance of visualization. Good, Akhila. Very good, Victor. Quite good. Hopefully, I can make these into habits, Muneem. Absolutely. Understanding is the key. Good. Ashish never looked at sentence correction with this approach. Good. Vivek, it's really nice and can relate important parts like visualization. Okay, very good. Sandesh, amending my approach. Yash, good and enriching. Okay, good. So here is your third question. I won't keep you away from it. All right, there you go. Solve it. All right, last 20 seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. This is an interesting question. How many of you were looked at the sentence and were like, what is going on in this sentence? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a very interesting sentence, inverted structure. Oh, Rishabh figured that out. Okay. So, this is, well, I would say you guys have done very well as compared to other groups with whom I have shared this question. Usually, choice E is correct choice is choice E, and we'll get to why that is. Okay. Usually, E gets very few votes. I'm very happy to see the C and E got almost, well, exactly same level of love. So, good. Very nice. So, how many of you attempted to understand the meaning or tried to visualize it? This is a very difficult question. I would definitely say it's a 750 level question. It's more difficult than the previous two questions. In fact, the last question is going to be more difficult. The only difference is there is nothing happening from grammar perspective over here. The last question that we'll talk about, there is some nuanced grammar stuff happening there, which is why, again, we'll get to that question. Okay, so let's look at this. This question is purely meaning. Okay, so it was very challenging. All options looked very similar. Again, I'm not expecting magic to happen, people. That's something which I want you all to understand. This is, as long as you are attempting, as I said, it's all a mindset, right? So as long as you are attempting and making an effort, that's victory for all of us here. That's victory for me, I would say. Okay, so yes. All right, so let's look at this again. Long sentence, complicated sentence structure, the entire sentence is underlined, and that usually makes people get very anxious. Okay, but in my opinion, completely underlined sentences are more easy to handle. That's what I feel. Okay, but again, we have to get to that level to be able to feel that way. Okay, so visualization is used. Fix my issues with SC. Thomas, I am very happy to hear that. If again just this session has fixed your issues already, that's amazing. But as I said, for me, victory is if all of you understand the essence of visualization and imbibe that in your learning. Okay, good. All right, so let's look at this. Again, break the sentence down into its sentence structure. Okay, very important. Again, where you break the sentence depends on the is governed by the pause points. That's what you learn in the master comprehension course. So let's do that. The church coined the date Feb 14th as Valentine's Day. So what does it mean? It means, again, you have to visualize that, and you have to visualize the first part here first. The church coined the date. So means that the church said that Feb 14th is Valentine's Day. Okay, so that's what you have to change the word coined into your own words. The church said Feb 14th is Valentine's Day with an ulterior motive. So the church, who had the ulterior motive? It was the church that had the ulterior motive. Even if you don't know the meaning of ulterior, don't worry about it. The church said Feb 14th was Valentine's Day with a motive. Everyone understands what a motive is, right? With a motive to Christianize. And again, Christianize is in quotes, right? Christianize the pagan celebration of Lupercalia. Even if you don't know the word pagan, that's okay. You know the word Christianize, right? So basically, convert into Christian tradition some other celebration, some other traditional celebration of what? Of Lupercalia. Okay, even if you don't know what Lupercalia is, don't worry about it. It's anyway in it italics, right? So again, The church made Feb 14th as Valentine's Day with a certain motive. What was that motive? That motive was to take another religion's celebration and convert that into Christianity, transform that into Christian tradition. Is claimed by a few experts. This is a little weird. We already have a complete idea, and then it's saying is claimed by a few experts. So this is where whenever, so somebody asked me earlier that, if the sentence is written in non-grammatical, it has grammatical errors, what do you do? You still continue, as we've already talked about, right? But these structural errors, and this is something that you will learn in the course, right? You these whenever there are structural errors, they act as speed bumps. It basically, any structural error that you see in the sentence will create a bit of a friction when you're reading the sentence. Okay, it's so as I said, it's going to work as a speed bump. So that's another input that meaning analysis gives you when for your step 2, when you have to understand, when you have to identify the deterministic error. So essentially, is claimed by a few experts seems to be hanging, but again, as I said, you have to be your author's friend, right? You have to understand what is the author wants to. The author is very knowledgeable, right? They want to communicate something, and you want to understand what do they want to communicate. And that's what you see here, that this theory that church made Valentine's Feb 14th as Valentine's Day to Christianize the pagan celebration. This is a theory of few experts. Okay, but it is celebrated on this date. Okay, so now there is a contrast, right? So which means there's a contrasting theory, possibly, but it is celebrated on this date. What is celebrated? Valentine's Day is celebrated on Feb 14th to honor the anniversary of Valentine's death or burial. Okay, is the more prevalent belief. Okay, so essentially what this sentence is saying is it's presenting two beliefs about celebration of Feb 14th as Valentine's Day. Belief number 1 is church designated it with a specific motive. Belief number 2 is it's celebrated to honor Valentine's death or burial. By the way, claim 1 is by a few experts. Claim 2 is the more prevalent belief. Tell me, any issues in understanding the meaning of the sentence in this way? I want to hear from you. When you break it down in this manner without without any worry about grammar, right? Without thinking about anything, there's so many structural errors here. I didn't think about anything. Okay, all thought about was, what is my author friend trying to communicate? Okay, and I'm not finding faults in what they've said. I am just trying to get all the juice, extract all the aspects that the author has is attempting to give me, the author. So that's the mindset that you guys need to have. Does that make sense? Okay, Shivani, we'll get to that. Don't worry. If you are, and that's something which is important, and thank you for sharing. You understood the meaning, but you're still getting the answers wrong. Again, this is a very difficult question. Okay, it is a very difficult question if you're getting all the aspects of the meaning, and that's something which I want all the e-GMAT students to understand. When you are building a skill set, and all the students to understand, right? Building a skill set takes time. Okay, you have to stay motivated along the way. You have to understand that it's going to be a journey. Okay, it's a process. Now there has to be certain criteria that you have to meet, right? For example, if this were a question in the application file and if you answered it wrong, incorrectly, that's okay. Think about which step are you making mistakes in, and this is very important during strategic review. So folks who are stuck at cementing, people who have hit the plateau, and there were a couple of students here who have hit the plateau. I'm just going up in here. That's okay. So there are a couple of students who have hit a plateau. For those, what I would recommend is um, you figure out, you learn how to do strategic review. Okay, I'm not talking about strategic pausing, I'm talking about strategic review, and that's something that we explain in our cementing module. Okay, that's the last module in the course. Essentially the point over here is, if I were to do strategic review over here, what I would do is for each step of the process. Here, step number one, to understand the meaning, I'm going to give myself complete credit if I was able to extract all these three aspects from the original sentence. That's a big thumbs up on the in the column for understand the meaning. I have visualized the entire meaning. I know all the three aspects. Okay. So give yourself credit for that. Now when I move to the second step, which is what we're going to do now, okay, for those of you, so yeah, so this is the kind of self critique that you need to do. Okay, mark, you understand the meaning, right? You look at the solution, and then you critique, were you able to get all the aspects? If you were able to get all the aspects, well and good. If you missed even a single aspect, and a number of you missed would have missed this aspect here, that who is claim 1 by and who's claim 2 by. And if you missed any aspect, then that's a big ding. Okay. And again, don't feel bad about it. Just understand, why did you miss it? You read the same sentence, you spent good amount of time, but if you still missed it, why did you miss it? Questioning that why is very important. Getting to the doing that causal analysis is very important to get out of that plateau. Okay. And again, you're not the only person who experiences that plateau. Lots of students do, but only those students can get out of that plateau who do this kind of self critique. Okay, does that make sense? So step number one, you have to do the self critique for so do the self critique at every point. That's the strategic review process. Okay, now when you do your second step, right? Understand all the errors. This is where, let's say you were not able to. So basically, the issue over here is that these verbs, they don't have associated subjects, which is something that we were able to identify, because these things acted as the structural errors, acted as, you typically act as speed bumps, right? So so that is something which is important. Now, in your strategic review, if you're not able to identify this, right? Once you see the solution, and this is the importance of having detailed solutions. So again, my point, my feedback to people who are studying using OG solutions, OG questions are amazing. Okay, OG solutions are horrible, to say the least. Right, but questions are very, very good. Okay, I love solving OG questions. I don't know how many times I've solved them, and even if I solve them, 6 times, sixth time also, I can extract so much juice from those questions. Okay, so but you need to have those detailed solutions which tell you, which enable you to do strategic review. So that's very important. Okay, now so make a note of that in your error log. And then you take that analysis with you from steps 1 and 2 into your answer choices. So now let's take a look at all the choices. Now, choice B was not selected by very many people, so I'm going to skip this one. Let's look at choice C, right? Choice C. Choice C and E are very popular. So choice E is the correct one, but let's take a look at choice C first. That's a popular incorrect choice. While a few experts claim that the church point, everything else is fine, their more prevalent belief is, okay, why is there an issue, Kirat? Because what it's saying is it's actually not implementing this part over here. Claim 2 is not claimed by experts. Absolutely, Joaquin. Absolutely. Jagriti. Yeah, Jagriti. See, that's the beauty of getting the meaning. Such a complicated sentence. Yes, it implies the same experts. Absolutely. Again, a single word made all the difference. We can say that a single word made all the difference, or we can say that, one of the three aspects was not communicated correctly, right? And that's the beauty of SC. There isn't anything grammar, nothing grammar related happening over here, because GMAT is not testing you to become grammarians. I'm so glad, Sandesh. I'm so glad to hear that. I'm very happy to see that you are able to, this class in general is able to identify these things, and that's absolutely amazing. Okay. Imagine if you do this process on 20 questions. 21st question is going to be a cakewalk. Okay, you simply have to wire your brain. It's all about mindset. It's all about mindset. And then once you get the right mindset, it's about using the course in a progressive manner, using appropriate course. Okay, choice C is done. Okay, choice D, again, as claimed by a few experts, but it's celebration. The more so choice C is choice D is a little bit more nuanced, I would say. Okay, not many people have selected choice D, but the main thing over here is if you're saying as claimed versus is claimed, these again, a single word is making a huge difference here. When you're saying as something as claimed by a few experts, and let's take a look at this. Apple is the market leader is claimed by Forbes magazine. In this case, as an author, if you had written the sentence and as an author, you are simply communicating information. Okay, you are not the one who's making a claim. Okay, but if you say as claimed instead of is claimed, then what you're saying is Apple is the market leader, you are making that claim, and you're saying that, by the way, this is also you're agreeing with the author. Absolutely, Jagrati. Right? When you're saying as claimed, you are agreeing, you are basically saying that you are agreeing with Forbes magazine. So if Apple is not the market leader, turns out not to be the market leader, then you will also be blamed because you are the one who said that it is the market leader. Okay, so that's the difference between the use of word is and as. So choice D definitely has that nuanced thing over here. Okay, not grammatical, it's purely meaning based. Okay, choice E is the correct answer. Okay, now why choice E was rejected by these many people, by about a third of the class, is because it has a very weird sentence structure that the church coined. Okay, that is a very weird thing. Okay, this is an inverted subject verb structure. Okay, the other thing is there's this misconception that that always has to be used even when it is used as a connector. Okay, but the prevalent belief is people expect to see that over here. The prevalent belief is they expect to see that. Okay, it's not required. Okay, that's the thing with that. In terms of when it is used as a connector, you can omit it. Okay, then the other reason is over here is claimed. It's a passive voice. So whenever students see passive voice, they outrightly reject the choice without even thinking twice about it. No, passive voice is there for a reason. Okay, we should not be rejecting it unless it truly is wordy. Okay, in this case, that's not the case at all. Okay, so so again, why people reject this choice is three different reasons. You may have rejected it for any one of these three reasons, or maybe more than maybe more than one of these reasons. But again, these are all misconceptions. Okay, so again, somebody said over here that if we start to visualize the meaning, should we visualize the meaning only for difficult questions? It takes too much time and all that. This is actual data. At e-GMAT, we track each and every action that you do on the platform, which means that we have tons and tons of data, which means that we can do a lot of data analysis. What we have seen over the years, right? And that's the reason why we build these plots, so that we can give you that data on a platter. As your accuracy improves, and what you see over here is accuracy for hard questions. Okay, again, to hit that 90th percentile, you have to get to 70% accuracy in hard questions. Okay, keep that number in mind. Okay, so as you get to as you go im- improve your accuracy, your timing automatically comes down. Okay, that's timing is a consequence. Another thing that I want you to write is timing is a consequence. It'll come down automatically. You won't have to do a thing. Okay, all you have to do is tweak the way you are applying the process. If you are invested in applying the three-step process in the right manner, there is no reason in the world that you will not be able to improve. There's no reason at all. Okay. This is the whole, again, every 3 out of 5 successes that are posted on GMAT Club is by e-GMAT student. There must be a reason behind that, right? And the reason is what you have been seeing in this webinar. That's one of the very, very solid reasons. Okay. All right. So okay, so now with this, we come to the last question. How many of you want to go through the last question? The last question is a little bit more tricky. If you want to, but it's an amazing question to visualize the meaning. So I don't go into the answer choices as much for the last question. Why? Because um, it does a very nuanced thing about verb ing modifier, something that we cover in the course for sure, right? But it's a very interesting question from visualization standpoint. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, um, but again, as I said, answer choices you may not be able to understand a whole lot in those. Okay, all right, cool. So, all right. So let's click on still solving. I love the enthusiasm of all of you here. Amazing. Okay, let's get this number to 50. Still have about 80 people in the session. Okay. I won't keep you waiting. Here you go. Again, if you get this essence of the sentence, if you visualize the sentence, it's a victory. Okay? Go ahead. All right, last 10 seconds. Okay, so I'm going to end this poll. Okay, I think some last minute changes are happening. Good. So, how was this question? Complex, right? Too many verb ing words here. It was hard. But can you explain the story to your friend? But easy to visualize, right? Okay. Okay. So as I said, we are not going to worry too much about the answer choices as long as you get the story right. Okay. So let's understand. Well, I'm so happy to see that you guys are saying that it's easy to visualize. That's victory for all of us here, especially for me. I'm very happy to hear that. Okay. So let's see this. Good. Okay. So let's make sure that we all, there's some, okay, let's remove this. About 5 million acres in US have been invaded by leafy spurge. When you read this first black portion here, portion in black font, what sense do you get? How do you visualize it? And I want you to write that visualization in words right now. Okay. Because that's how I want you to do that when you're solving questions outside of this session. Okay. Write, write this down. And again, we are going to end the session once you get the meaning of choice A. Okay. I'm going to share the PDF with you so that you can see the why each of the answer choices, incorrect answer choices is wrong. Okay. So you can look at that in the PDF. No, B is the correct answer. A is not correct. Again, we are not worrying about the answer choices. As I said, this question tests a very specific thing about verb ing modifier, something that you will learn in the in the modifiers module. Yes, there is a kind of plant which is replacing the important plant consumed by animals. So, Vivek, just from the black portion, the sense that you get is 5 million land got attacked by some plant. Absolutely. Yash, when you say big grasslands and greenery, you've taken into account 5 million acres, but you haven't taken into account the invaded part. Okay, invasion part also has to be taken into account. So, Anna, you're right. The land is covered by a kind of plant, but again, invasion has not been captured. Jagriti has captured that appropriately wherein she said 5 million land got attacked by some plant. And again, you don't have to be grammatically correct here. They've translated invaded to attack, and that's the right thing to do. Okay. So you have to get the essence out. Okay. So make sense? So in your mind, there's this huge land over here. Okay. There's this huge land, and that has been taken over or attacked by this leafy spurge. We don't have to know what leafy spurge is. Absolutely, Vivek. It's been taken over by some plants. Okay. Taken over is the important thing, or attacked is the important thing. Okay. Now we see all captured by leafy spurge. Yes, you can say that. Absolutely. Now let's move um, to the blue part there. A herbaceous plant from Eurasia with milky sap. Now, what is this describing? A herbaceous plant from Eurasia with milky sap? In the first black portion there, we were talking about something in United States. Okay, in this blue part, we are saying that something has come from Eurasia. What is that? It's describing the leafy spurge. Absolutely. This leafy spurge is some kind of plant, okay, that has come from Eurasia, means it has come from another continent. By the way, this plant has milky sap. Okay, now you don't need to know what a milky sap is. It has some substance, right? Now read the next part in the black font. That gives mouth sores to cattle. Okay, so what gives mouth sore? It's the milky sap that is there in the herbaceous plant. Yes, that herbaceous plant gives mouth sores to cattle. Now, in your mind, okay, you already know that this leafy spurge is not a friendly thing. It's something that has attacked. Invasion already has that negative. So you know that this leafy spurge is a villain here. Okay, that's the visualization that you have to do, right? So it has been attacked, so it's a villain here. Now milky sap, is that something that's pleasant? you don't know whether it's pleasant till the time you don't read that gives mouth sores to cattle, but in your mind you know, because leafy spurge is a villain here, so milky sap may not be a good thing, right? So that's how the sentence needs to come to life. The words need to come to life as you're reading this, right? You're relating that invasion part with milky sap not being a good thing. And then when you read milky sap that gives mouth sores to cattle, mouth sores, not a pleasant thing at all, right? We've all had mouth sores sometime or the other in our lives. We know it's not a pleasant thing. Now, the impression that you had about milky sap is coming to is becoming a reality as you're reading this part that gives mouth sores to cattle. So do you see that each part of the sentence that you are reading, you're not reading from grammar standpoint, you're reading from the knowledge that that part of the sentence is communicating. You're reading it from the standpoint of the knowledge that the author is attempting to impart to you. Okay, that's the mindset that we're talking about, and I'm very happy that you all are getting that. Okay, so Vivek said, I assume some poisonous substance in plant that gives mouth sores. Absolutely perfect. Really good. Now we see what comes next. Displacing grasses and other cattle food. Now this is important. Displacing grasses and other cattle food. Now what do you make of the word displacing? What is it doing? Is it somehow linked with invaded? Yes, we already knew that in that this leafy spurge has attacked, right? Now this leafy spurge has displaced grasses. So this is essentially impact giving that similar meaning right now, displacing grasses and other cattle food. So this leafy spurge has basically displaced the grasses. Okay, it's not that it is happily coexisting, it has attacked, right? That attack word is continuing on over here. It had attacked, and actually it's not that they are happily coexisting. No, it has actually displaced the grasses and other cattle food and rendering rangeland worthless. Absolutely, Akila, it has taken over and displaced and rendering rangeland worthless. Now what this is the part which is the result. Absolutely, Akila, it's a result of the action. What is the action? That this invasion has happened, or the grasses and the cattle food has been replaced and have been replaced by this leafy spurge, and that has led to the rangeland becoming worthless. Now think about it. A plant has replaced another plant, right? One kind of plant has replaced another kind of plant. Why would that lead rangeland to become worthless? Tell me that. It's one plant has replaced one kind of plant has replaced another kind of plant. So why should that? Yeah, so it has displaced the food. Uh, why can't cattle eat leafy spurge? Because it's harming the why can't cattle eat leafy spurge? Because it's not a friend, because they get mouth sores. Absolutely, absolutely. So both of those things, because it gives mouth sores, because it has replaced the grasses and cattle food, both of these things lead the rangeland to become worthless, right? Which means, or in other words, cattle doesn't like eating leafy spurge, so that entire 5 million acres is useless for the cattle. Okay, so that's it. That's the way you understand the meaning. Okay. What are we doing here? We are pausing at the right point. Okay. We gives and displaces. Absolutely, Akhila. We are pausing at the right time. We are understanding the meaning of each small part. We are, it's not that we understand the meaning and then we forget about that. We take that meaning with us as we read the remaining parts of the sentence, and we get the entire story. Okay, and all of that happens because we are actively engaged with the sentence, because we are determined to understand what all information our dear author wants to communicate to us. Okay, and see, all of you were able to do this visualization. So I want all of you to pat yourself, each one of you to pat yourself on your back. This is very, very good. Okay. Now, when you come to choices. I know I said that I'm not going to discuss the choices, but let's talk about it at a very high level. Now we understand the entire meaning, right? And you see that visualization up there. So when you are solving questions on your own, your visualization needs to be on your scratch pad, in your notes. Very, very important. Okay. Now you get in the mindset of looking at grammar. The first time you're reading the sentence, no grammar whatsoever. You don't even know what grammar is. Okay. All you're focusing on is, what is my dear author trying to tell me? Okay, that's it. You are in that knowledge and knowledge gaining mode. Okay, now when you come to step number 2, you get in that mindset. Okay, the author told me all of this, but did the author do a good job in terms of grammar? Now you become a critique of the author. Okay, in step number 1, you are all happy with the author. You want to just make sure that you get all the information from the author. Now here you basically tighten the reins. Okay, now you see over here, and again, I'm giving you all these ways to think about the author of the sentence, to do that role playing exercise, to see whichever one you start to associate with and start to use in your when you in your practice sessions. Okay, now here, displacing and rendering, these are two verb ing words here, right? They appear to be parallel here, right? But they are not logically parallel. Display rendering is an outcome of displacement. Okay, so these two cannot be at the same level. That's the reason why this choice is wrong. And then this other reason is also wrong. And again, this is something that you have to look at the files there. Okay, choice B is the correct answer. Now here in choice B, something interesting has happened. With milky sap has been made as an additional information, and some people think that choice B is wrong. Why? Because they think in the original choice it was the milky sap that gives mouth sores, but in this choice it is the herbaceous plant from Eurasia or the leafy spurge that gives mouth sores. So they think that there is a shift in meaning, whereas there is no shift in meaning here. All because we understand that it's the leafy spurge. If it's the milky sap that gives mouth sores, then obviously it's the leafy spurge that gives mouth sores, because milky sap is part of the leafy spurge. And which is where you have to visualize. Because students who reject choice B just based on this thing, they are simply at the surface of the sentence. Okay, and that is, again, when you are doing strategic review, these are the things, this is the level of self critique that you have to do. Okay, if you made an error, if you rejected an answer choice because of this reason, and when you look at the solution and you realize, that's what I didn't know, that's what I didn't consider, right? Those notes, those aha moments need to go in your error log, because those moments are going to make or break your SC ability. Okay. Now, see, Jagrati, what this sentence is saying is that 5 million acres have been invaded by this, right? By leafy spurge. Leafy spurge gives mouth sores and displaces grasses, right? So it's saying, so leafy spurge is doing two things, it's giving mouth sores and it has displaced grasses, right? Now, both of those things have rendered the rangeland worthless. Okay. Now, choice C, again, we are going into the details of it. It's pretty late in the hour right now. And again, it requires that level of understanding of verb ing words. So I'm going to share this PDF with you, okay, so that you can look at this and all the issues. If you see here, 5 million acres displaces and renders. It's not the 5 million acres that displaces, right? And that's why this choice is wrong. Choice E is wrong. Why? Because again, 5 million acres, there is no verb here at all. Okay. But there is something else going on with this milky sap giving and displacing. It's not the milky sap that is displacing. Okay. Milky sap gives mouth sores, but it doesn't displace. Okay. So again, when you are yes, there's force parallelism here. So take a look at, I definitely want you guys to look at each and every answer choice here. So solve this question once more when you are pretty fresh. Okay, and then you look at these over here. Okay, all right. Oh, poll answers, yes. So choice B is the correct answer, which is marked by a third of the class. Okay. All right. So again, what was our objective? Our objective was that you should be able to answer. Our objective was to enable you with the methodology so that you can answer questions with high accuracy and you can answer questions quickly. Okay. Again, the process remains the same everywhere. Okay. For each and every type of question. And here is what your journey to 90th percentile looks like. Okay. We've talked about visualization to death. We've talked about sentence structure. Okay, you do need solid grammar. There's no way that I am undermining the use of grammar or the learning of grammar. So you have to first go through master comprehension course. We've already gone through the details of that. You have to learn the sentence structure, and here again, we build skills for life. Our students tell us that they, after going through the course, they not only ace the GMAT, they've learned those life skills, which really helps them with comprehension from this point on. Okay, and nowhere will you see things such as how do you form long sentences, how do you deconstruct long sentences. Tell me, I mean, do you see that anywhere in the industry? Nowhere. Okay. GMAT level, this is 700 level question, 700 plus level question. Divanshi, how to come out of a plateau? Strategic review. Look at look at the cementing module. If you have finished the course, look at cementing module. Strategic review is the main thing. That's what you have to do. Okay. Again, do not time yourself. People who do stage one, and by stage one I mean sentence correction course, they start to time themselves prematurely, and that is the issue. Okay. So it's very important to not time yourself. It's very important to take personalized feedback that is given to you and be very critical of it. Revise whenever your score is less than 80%. Very, very important. Many a times students write to us after doing stage one and they say, okay, we are not improving. By the way, we have six strategy experts on on standby. If you have any issues, just write to us at support@e-gmat.com so that we can help you out. Okay. So a number of times when we see accounts such as this, okay, 67%, and time spent on this quiz was not really excessive at all. That tells me that the student has not done review, and that kind of not doing review is revealed over here in the next file, because your because again, the course is a progressive course, right? So if you don't fix your if you don't fix problems up front, you are going to continue, those problems will become really big. Okay. So that's very, very important. Now, if you have reviewed again, you see all of these technology implementations that we have done, wherein we not only give you your score, we also tell you, did you do the revision right away? Okay. There is a reason why we have spent hundreds of hours in building this technology so that we can give you that kind of feedback. Okay. Because that feedback is very important. Okay. So again, if we see that the review is not done, or if the review is done 3 days down the line, that tells me that the student is not exhibiting the right kind of winning behavior. Okay. So again, these are very important. So all the stats that you see, all the technology, all the feedback that you see on your platform, all of that is built through working with students on a very close basis so that we can impart that knowledge to the masses. Okay, that's very important. We do interact with students on very close, in a very close interaction, but our goal is to obviously to get those students to success, but also to learn from the difficulties that they are facing, so that we can develop technology to impart those learnings, to impart those winning behaviors to everybody who has purchased the course.
Okay, so that's very important. Likewise, you see stuff over here. How much time did you take versus what was the median time? Okay, if you took longer to solve the question and you also answered this question incorrectly, then that's a very big red flag. That's telling me that should tell you that okay, you are messing up at least one of the steps of the process, which means that you have to do strategic review. Okay, to figure out why you are faltering, because people who are in your cohort are actually answering question correctly and they're taking less time. Okay, so that is something. There are these 20% of people who exist, right, who are able to solve this question correctly in in this less times, which means that you have to do something right. You need to fix the process here. Okay, so again, very very important to do that strategic review. Okay, now this student over here reviewed the incorrect questions, right, reviewed the questions that they got wrong, but they did not review the question for which they took really long time. Okay, and that's not a good winning behavior. So don't ignore questions for which you took longer, because those questions will definitely give you insights into your process. So again, if you have hit the plateau, these are the winning behaviors that you need to demonstrate. You need to do strategic review so that you can get out of that plateau. And again, no, the answer is not to go back to the course and do the entire course. That's not the answer. Many a times it is, if you have not really absorbed the information from the course. As I said, you need to have the right mindset. Okay, now in this session you have understood what the right mindset is. You know how to relate to the student, to the author, right? You know what your responsibility is as you're doing step 1, and as you're moving to step 2, and then as you come to step 3. So, and you have all the data in the platform, right? So what your if I were you, and if you have done the entire SC course and you are stuck, you have hit a plateau, I would go back to all the application files starting from subject verb module, and I would go back and look at each and every application file and do the strategic review. And the strategic review has been explained in detail over here. I want you to build your SC error log. People who have hit a plateau, have you built an SC error log? Actually, let me ask this, because there were 2 or 3 people who have said to me in the chat that they have hit a plateau. So tell me, how many of you have hit a plateau? If you've hit a plateau, click on yes. Okay. If you've hit a plateau, now my question to you is, have you filled your SC error log in the manner as explained in this module? The error logs that exist on the internet are no good. Okay, have you filled the error logs the way they are over here? If you have filled the error logs correctly, and again, believe me, filling an error log is a skill. Okay, yesterday I was looking at a student's account, amazingly done course. They had finished the course. They started the course 10 days back. They finished the SC course. They spent and they got 100% in, I would say 97% was their average accuracy in application files and in the and in the concept files. And they had spent 2 hours on every file in this cementing block. Okay, I was so amazed to see that. And I right away responded to that student. Again, I didn't need to, but I was so amazed to see that, that, you know, your account is really an account of a model student, right? A student who will truly, truly excel. Because again, all of this data tells me that, you know, the student is truly invested in knowing exactly how to fill the error log. Okay, so, and I've, believe me, I've seen so many filled up error logs from students which desire a lot to be done in them. Okay, so again, write to support at e-gmat.com. Okay, they're going to take a look at the error log real quick. They're not going to do the analysis of the error log. They're going to take a look at the error log and tell you whether you're filling it the right way or not. Okay, that's very important. Okay, Divyanshi, it pointed the issue to probe questions. I don't have much on incorrect or questions where I timed myself and was in a panic. Yeah. So if you haven't done so, very good, Divyanshi. If you have now, if you have this input, or if you have this feedback from the error log, that is amazing. If it has pointed the issue to not ask the probe questions, that you're not asking the probe questions, right? Then what I would suggest is, thank you for sharing that.
Here's what I suggest: go back, select 20 difficult correct sentences. Okay, go to New York Times. Okay, or maybe just put the prompt in Chat GPT. Okay, give Chat GPT 3 or 4 correct sentences from SC. Okay, ask it to create, or actually that's a good thing. Okay, in the world of Chat GPT, this is very interesting. Take up the sentences that you've answered incorrectly, give the correct sentence, or give the correct choice from those questions, give 3 or 4 of those, and ask ChatGPT to give you 20 sentences like those using those sentence structures. And then you basically practice asking probe questions for each one of those. Do it in untimed manner. Okay. All you have to do is just get in that habit of practicing to ask the right questions. Okay. Do this on 10 questions. I assure you, if you do this the right way, 11th question, you will be primed, you will be wired to answer those probe questions. You just have to do repetition. Okay. All right. So do that. Okay. But use ChatGPT 4.0, not 3.5. Okay. All right. So again, people who are stuck at have hit a plateau, do this cementing module. Very, very important. Okay. Okay. What else? I think I've said a lot. That's it. Again, your error log is very important. A lot of all the e-GMAT students, make sure you're using your consistency tracker. You're getting driving those insights from those. It's very, very important. Okay. And again, if you don't know how to use them, send an email to support@e-gmat.com. Everything that you see on the platform has been built with a certain intent. There are help videos for each and every technology implementation that we have. But if you don't know the purpose of it, write to us at support. Okay, we are there to help you out. Okay, you get all these insights, such as, did you get the answer right because you rushed through, right? Or because of luck factor, or there was a timing influence in you answering the question incorrectly. So again, all of that is expert curated information, right? So you get all those insights from your quiz results. So utilize those. Okay, you're able to isolate weaknesses. Last 20 questions, what was your accuracy in medium level questions in these 3 blocks? So what this tells me is, this chart tells me that this student has some conceptual issues with block 2. And block 2 is what? Subject, verb, verbs, and pronouns. And if the student doesn't fix this for medium questions, they're definitely going to falter when they get to hard questions. So again, these are the insights that you can get from your platform. Use those insights. All right. And again, as I said, as you fix the weaknesses, your accuracy will go up and your timing will come down. Timing is a consequence. Now, when you think about all of this, the mindset, the course, the learning methodology, the putting together of the information in this progressive manner, all the winning behaviors that are presented to you through technology implementation, all the content which is curated in your practice platform so that you attempt the right level of question at the right time, all the data analytics that you get, all the personalization that exists, when you put all together, right, it's a no brainer to, when you see this statistic in front of you, that there's so many partners on GMAT Cloud, yet e-GMAT alone accounts for 60% of all the success, right? So that is something to keep in mind, okay? And again, you talk about 5-star reviews, there's no comparison at all, right? The data speaks for itself, okay? So again, e-GMAT students, make sure you take all these learnings with you, okay? And if you have any questions, write to us, and let me just write down the ID over here, okay? Write to us, okay? Um, And students who are not as yet e-GMAT students, definitely look at the free trial. Okay. All of these concepts, with the free trial, you're just going to get the flavor of the concept files, but at least you'll get to know the way we teach you. Okay. In this session, you learned how the entire course is structured, right? Or the methodology behind the course. When you look at the free trial and when you experience these files, you'll see how at a concept level, we make sure that we that we teach you, how well we teach you, and how well we give you assessments. For each of these, you get feedback right away. Okay, so again, look at all of that. And again, if you are interested in exploring critical reasoning, absolutely do so as well. All right, so with this, I'm going to change the pane here, and session PDF. Okay, I didn't share the right one. Let me share the PDF. Um, I'll get the poll. I don't have feedback as well. Okay. If you want to book a study plan call with us, definitely do that. Um, yes, please rate the session. Here it goes. Ah, why can't I move it? I think my poll has also gotten tired. Yay, got it here. It's becoming very stubborn. All right, so definitely put in your ratings here. How do we book a study plan for a newbie? Just click on this book your study plan call. So click on this over here. And you should be able to book it. And let me also uh, connect with me on LinkedIn. I post motivational posts once a week. Well, I've started to do that. So definitely click on. So definitely do that. And let me get you the session PDF real quick. Here it goes. All right, and if you could tell me in the chat over here, what was what was an aha moment from the session? I would really appreciate that. Or what learnings are you going to take from this session into your practice, into your learning? That's very important. And once again, I should commend all of you for sticking around and for being such active participants. It was truly enjoyable to conduct this webinar for you. The visualization part, focus on the meaning, strategy, visualization. I should focus on the implementing the meaning approach. Timing will take care of itself. Very good. Small victories of being able to visualize to build confidence. Absolutely. We all need those small victories. And again, the way to think about it, if words need to come to life. Nice, Jagriti. Focus on meaning and then on grammar. Absolutely, Harnoor. And the way to think about this is that um, when think of yourself whenever you when in the past when you have built a new skill. Okay, how did you go about doing that? This is about the same. Okay, will I get an answer for the questions which are sent by Q&A? Naveen, do one thing please. Send us an email on support at e-gmat.com. It's right. So I would and then our team is going to help you out there. Why is the fees only in dollars? Can we pay in INR? Definitely send an email to support. They will help you out with that. You can definitely do the payment. Okay. um, I answered quite a few questions about plateau and all that stuff. Where can I see the recording of this session? We will be sending the recording in another 12 hours. So you should be able to get that in your email. Akila says power of visualization. Okay, good. Harsh says visualization is aha moment. All right, good. Very nice. All right, everyone. Good luck. We are here to help you ace the GMAT. Write to us so that we can help you out. Okay. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Have a nice day or good night and have a very nice weekend ahead. Okay. Bye-bye.